This isn't a video about finding your main. There's already plenty of videos that talk about that. This is about how to find your main archetype. Finding a preferred archetype is by no means a necessity, but it is helpful for when you want to pick up a new game, especially when no character draws your attention from their visuals or lore alone. Or worse, one or multiple characters did draw you in, but when you got around to playing them, you didn't actually find them any fun. Also, when you do find your preferred archetype, you can go back and check out characters that you previously didn't find cool from their visuals and story alone, and hell, maybe you'll even find a new main. This also isn't a video going over each fighting game archetype individually and telling you their strengths and weaknesses. Again, there are already videos for that. And since fighting games control so differently from other games, what you might find interesting in, say, an FPS hero shooter or a MOBA isn't going to have that same feedback in a fighting game. So the only way to figure out what's satisfying is for you to just play a bunch of different characters. No, see, I wanted to take some time to talk about my process of becoming a Shotokan enjoyer, and how you, presumably a new player, can understand the process that I went through in hopes of giving you some confidence, in case you're in a similar situation that I was during this journey. But first, I'd like to quickly remind you that having a preferred archetype is by no means mandatory. If you're concerned about being disappointed about a character's playstyle after picking them up for some other reason, I think you should try that character regardless. Even if you think you already know what you like, you may figure out that your previous preferences were based on bad habits that you may have outgrown by now. Or those preferences came from how you interacted with your preferred game's system mechanics, and don't apply to other games' system mechanics. But first, did someone say sudden format change? No? No, you didn't say that? Well, this is the third time I've had to record this, and this video is not getting done if I don't make this change. So, here's me, here's my face. The first fighting game that I really got into was BB Tag, and some of the characters I played bounced around quite a lot because it was a team game, but I almost always had Gordeau on my team. I can't tell you the initial reason for playing him, but I could tell you I really liked him, and because of that I got the impression that I like characters with really long normals. The next character I played was Half Moon Wark and Melty Blood Actress Again Current Code. I played her while bouncing around its frankly massive roster because Melty Blood is a really fast game, and I got used to kind of the keep away zoner style that Gordeau gave me with his long normals, so I felt like I needed to play a zoner to slow the game down. Especially because Melty Blood, for me, was a really fast game compared to what I was playing before. And what do you know, it worked pretty well for a while. Eventually I found a part of a move, not even an entire move, that felt really good to use on another character, and that was Crescent CL's 214BA follow-up. It's a projectile that conveniently covers both the ground and a good portion of the air. Of course, Melty is a game for insane people with really crazy air movement, so you can still get over it quite well. She's not a complete zoner because of this, but it's a fairly useful tool nonetheless. During this time, I was picking up and dropping other fighting games at the speed of light. Fighters, BB Tag, Uni, and especially Strive. I'm not going to go into a rant right now, but I don't like that game. I really only played it because it was popular. It was really not good. Melty Blood Type Lumina, as I'm sure some of you have guessed, is my personal favorite fighting game of all time. And less of you might be aware of how I bounced around characters quite a bit in that game, as you can see in my videos. Luckily, it's not because I had a hard time finding characters that I enjoyed, but rather because there were a lot of characters that I did enjoy. Something that's really useful for this video was that about 2 to 3 weeks before the game came out, when its entire roster was revealed, including Saber, I made a tier list showing off all the characters that I'd want to play on a S to A, B, it's a fucking tier list. Yeah, let's just go through and look through this tier list. Not the entire thing, mind you, we're not going to go through the whole roster. We're just going to go through the top 3 that I put in S tier. The top tiers consist of 3 characters. CL, my previous main, and the safe pick. Even though her 214BA wasn't really a thing anymore in the same way, I still appreciated the character a lot while playing her, especially her 236C and her JB. Red Arc, or Wark, whatever you want to call her, is similar but different. The Type Lumina version of her is based more on her Full Moon and Crescent Moon archetypes because that character is not good. Which just goes to show if you're playing with your friends, you can play any character and get some degree of success. Outside of maybe Neko Arc, that character might be a little bit too much. That being said, I also really enjoyed the visual and lore changes to Red Arc, which, that's another thing that I'm not going to get into. And finally, there's Kohaku. the character that I actually would go on to main for a really long period of time. I wanted to play this character because she by far boasted the longest normals in the game. I liked her character a lot after being spoiled on it. And finally, because she had really strong multi-hitting Oki Zeme. Why the focus on Oki? Well, at this point, one of the other fighting games that me and my friends have been enjoying was Under Night In-Birth. In that game, I bounced around quite a bit, but the two characters that I really ended up playing were Merkava and Byakuya because they had long normals. Well, most characters in Under Night actually have really long normals, but I kept away from Gordeau because my muscle memory would be messed up if I played a character that looked the exact same but controlled differently. And plus the other characters just looked a little bit more interesting. And so those two characters ended up having Oki tools. Really strong Oki tools, might I add. So even though I was a newer player and I didn't actually really utilize the Oki well, like, at all, I got the impression that it was something that I really needed. I also specifically had to focus on multi-hitting projectile Oki, because I thought single-hitting meaty projectiles were unsatisfying. Although I couldn't tell you why at the time. So that was it, right? Story over. I like characters with long normals and multi-hitting projectile Oki. Well, with those two things in mind, I played Kohaku and had a blast of a time. But only for a time. See, I would often find myself craving other options that other characters would have. I would sit at full screen wondering how to approach and wishing I had a projectile to pressure my opponent. But when I played CL or Red Arc, I didn't like the Oki because again, it was unsatisfying. And I found the combo strings to be unintuitive and hard on my hands at that point. At this point, Aoko and Dead Apostle Noelle have been released, so I tried out Dan, yep, that's what they call her, because she had long buttons and strong Oki Zeme, and a design I really liked. This was actually a key point in my Archetype journey because this was the first time I realized I had a preference that I didn't really know about before. And that's multi-hitting moves. Between CL's 2B, Kohaku's 2B, Merkava's 2... everything. These multi-hitting normals helped me, as a new player, confirm my hits into my basic BMB, and an easy confirmation into a single B is a strength that's so strong that it's the primary reason why I just don't like Strive, or really any link-based games. And Dan didn't have a multi-hitting normal, and her okay-looking 2B was a mid? At the time, anyway. How am I supposed to mix the opponent from mid-range? And I don't like her combo routes that lead into her Oki. And doing the Oki setup itself is weird and hard on my hands. Yo, I mean, count me out of this character, man. It's also worth mentioning that I went through a Saber phase at around this point. I didn't really like her playstyle due to the no projectile and no multi-hitting Oki thing. She actually doesn't even have a single hit projectile Oki. But I'd read through Fate's Day Night recently, so I really wanted to see if I could fit around with my character roster. It didn't work, despite the multiple attempts of trying to pick her up. Then, the next two multiplayer characters were released. Around this time, I started to realize that I valued projectiles and multi-hit normals a lot more, and I was shifting my attention away from Byakuya and Under Night and towards Merkava, because his multi-hitting Oki was a lot easier to set up. As well as Hyde and Nanase for having more neutral usable projectiles, so to say. But before we move on to the next phase of Melty Blood, a brief detour to another game I really struggled with. BBCF. BBCF was really difficult because I had the opposite problem that I did with Strive. That is to say, I really liked the system mechanics, but I didn't really enjoy playing any of the characters. I went into that game looking for a character with long pokes, a multi-hitting projectile Oki, and ideally a usable projectile in neutral. Kokonoe was the first character that I tried, and she did have the multi-hitting projectile Oki, I think, but her neutral really wasn't what I enjoyed, along with her combo structure and her pokes also being a little bit short for my taste. S? Well, she has large normals, supposedly good Oki and projectiles for use in neutral, but her large normals are a bit too slow for my taste, and her Oki tool isn't multi-hitting. Okay, but Jin has to be it. He has to spend meter for the Oki tool, but it is multi-hitting, and he has good normals, and he has real projectiles, but God, he is such an asshole. This is literally the only time I've refused to play a character simply because of their character, their personality. They took literally every character trait that I didn't like, put them into Jin, and then when anything actually positive or interesting was done with those character traits, they just gave it to fucking Hakumen instead. Then they pushed me away from him by giving him a gameplay style I despised playing. I hate using step and teleport dashes. Which is also why I didn't play 9, by the way. So all you 9 players say, oh, you know, she's exactly what you're looking for. No, it doesn't work. I also don't like using counters, and I really didn't enjoy his meter system. Until finally, after long struggle, I randomly clicked on Moo 12, an underplayed character for sure, but she had a fast but effective 5C, a combo structure I really liked, and a multi-hitting projectile Loki. Or so I was told. But every combo I could find and perform at the time didn't actually have the Oki. Of course, now I realize about a year later that she can cancel her drone set in a 214D, which effectively just gives you a projectile immediately, with actually quite a lot of block stun. And she has a combo that's relatively easy on my hands now that goes into a multi-hitting projectile Loki. It even leaves enough room for a grab. Well, let's go back to Melty Blood, where I was suffering from a similar problem, but with significantly less intensity. At this point, Powered Seal had been released alongside Mario, so we could try her. But it's no multi-hitting Oki. She does have huge normals on a projectile, though, but also her projectile isn't really used much in neutral. It's just far too slow and covers too little of the screen to be actually usable. At this point, I was also realizing there were a lot of tools in a character's arsenal that I just wasn't using. Mostly because they just weren't fun for me. These neglected special moves eventually felt like wasted slots to me, and made me question why would I even play this character if I wasn't going to use them. I don't like Warwick's teleports, so why should I play her? I don't like her anti-air 236 series because, well, it's mostly just a combo tool, but I still don't like it. Why would I play Dan if I wasn't going to use her Oki? Why play CL if I'm not going to use her 623 series and her grounded 236 series? Hell, why would I play Kohaku if I'm not going to use a 214 series? Outside of a metered reversal, that's really bad. Don't, just shield it and you're good. At this point, I decided to play Aoko. She didn't have multi-hitting projectile Oki, but she did have some Oki. Sure, I didn't go into that character thinking she would be the silver bullet that would end my character crisis. And she wasn't, but I didn't mind that going into her. After all, in Melted Blood, my character crisis was me worried less about having fun with the game in general and more about stretching myself too thin as a player. And mostly it was the same as CL, although with two new problems. First problem that I had was the safe jump listed on Mizumi was really awkward for me to learn the first time around. I low-key thought it was impossible until I went back and tried it again for this video, and it is. It's just a massive pain in the fucking ass. Luckily for me, I did find a really cool combo on Twitter that had a completely different setup that is super cool. Even if I never actually got around to learning it properly, I did get to learn the combo, which was really fun. Oh yeah, right, the second problem. The second problem that I had was that I was running into too much trouble after using our 623X series on block because I didn't have that much practice with the input before. Wait, what? What have I been doing on block? It was only when tackling this problem that I realized my most fatal flaw as a player up until this point. Due to a combination of the online friends that I played with either being too respectful on block or just mashing fucking randomly, I'd realized I had no idea what to actually do on block. I was literally just pressing shit almost randomly with a vague idea I had to throw in an IAD somewhere for an overhead, and very rarely run in for a grab. I actually did not know how to set up frame traps up until this point. I really only vaguely knew of their existence. Mind you, I'd been playing for fighting games for 4 years at this point. 4 years of mashing without having a game plan of what to do on block. I mean, seriously, 4 years of not knowing how to maintain my offense outside of Okizeme. Oh, that's why I liked multi-hitting Oki. With multi-hit projectiles, I could do wildly unsafe options on block, with the opponent completely unable to punish me with my projectile on screen. It also explains the lack of grabs in my mix-up game, because it was literally impossible for me to grab them with my Okizeme active. Once I'd made this realization, my current perception of fighting games was fucking blasted away. I liked Kohaku so much even when I couldn't open up the opponent because my standard block string left them so far away that I wasn't just safe, I was back to fucking neutral. So I needed to learn a character with a simple block string that I can easily repeat. And it was around this realization that I'd already made my previous Multi-Blood video. So Match the Neko arc had already been released at this point, and obviously neither of them was going to be what I was looking for. By the way, here's a brief clip of my reaction to first seeing the reveal of Ushi and Dante's in Melty. So, how about those new Multi-Blood characters, huh? I've been sort of slowly falling off the game, mostly because of S.H.I.E.L.D., and I'll get into that in a second, but man, man, they really added in 2 more FGO characters, didn't they? Yeesh, that's pretty doomer, it's pretty sad. Anyways, here's my reaction after seeing Dante's gameplay reveal. Fuck every complaint I've ever had. Dante's had, or rather still has, everything that I wanted. A record that's easy to perform and understand, while still being very usable as your main pressure string, although the overhead option was just really bad when he first came out. It was still a strike throw that I could understand. A full screen active projectile, which is something that I learned to appreciate when my enemies would keep falling onto my Alco 236B lasers. Clones, which I didn't actually use that much at the time, even in combos. Multi-hitting, long normals that are easy to confirm from. Ooh, and he has a safe jump, which is something that I learned the value of after not being able to consistently allocate the brain resources to read DPs. Not to mention he also has a 236A that helps as a low commitment poke outside of the ranges of 5C and 2C. And he has a good anti-air game? And Multi-Blood type Lumina? The game where the very first clip I decided to show off to the world is this?
And then the enemies take 10% more damage when they hit it?
I mean, that's fine. I mean, granted, his 3C still clashes like that. But I just need the 63B on reaction, or 63A. Which I typically don't do, but the answer is there. I just need to get good at doing it. Oh my god, and he has a meterless DP that he can easily cancel into his Oki setup EX special? Okay, I think this is it. I don't think I could possibly ask for anything else. Even though his normals are usually a bit on the slower side, especially because he doesn't have a 5-frame normal, which is a very notable downside, but, like, I don't care. He has weaknesses that, for once, I can look at and I can just go, whatever, you know? He's really strong. He has all the tools that I really enjoy. I couldn't possibly ask for anything else when it came to character strength, but the only thing that matters now is he difficult to play? Does he feel good in my grubby little gamer hands? Well, he is one of the many characters that had this delayed jump charge C thing that I really didn't like at the time. But lucky me, I was able to homebrew a combo that felt great to do and only did around 71 less damage, which is about as much as a blocked 236A to put in a comparison. So you know what? I thought I could optimize that later. Which I actually did end up doing. I'm good at doing the combo now. Nice little TK. It's fun to do the delay. I got used to it. It's nice. I like it. So now I'm just going to focus on doing more important things. Like actually getting to the point of this video. If you're having a hard time or struggling to figure out your archetype as a new player, you're going to find preferences. And those preferences are going to change over time. Sometimes it can really take a while. So just focus on what you find fun now and fixing your bad habits. Try to see if there's any fundamental parts of your game, or fighting games as a whole, that you might be missing. Then consider picking up a character that has a simple but viable and universally applied game plan around that specific aspect of the game that you've been ignoring. Throughout this process, I personally learned that I really didn't like not having options, especially when I had options that I didn't use. Due to a desire to have both a well-rounded moveset and a hatred of matchups where I felt like I don't have any good options in a certain scenario, I learned that shotos are the archetype for me. If you ask me, once you have a fundamental understanding of each aspect of the game, neutral, okizeme, block strings, defense, or whatever else, then you can re-examine your personal priorities and figure out what parts of your main's movesets are tools that bolster your play, and which ones that are crutches that keep you from getting stronger. Maybe that crutch is a potted plant, or a command grab. Maybe it's just a simple fireball. Analyze your own play, improve, and try new stuff. After that, see you on the field. Hey, future editor Lyron here to say that see you on the field thing was not a joke. I'll be streaming on August 2nd at 3 p.m. EST. We'll be playing some Melty Blood and also likely going to be discussing the future of this channel and how basically these long videos are a complete pain in the ass to make, and I'm probably going to go back to shorter form stuff. Or, even more likely than that, I'm just going to be spending more time streaming regularly, just because those are a lot more spontaneous to do. As long as I have a general idea or discussion topic, I can kind of go in and make that sort of stuff. So yeah, I really hope to see you there.